given certificate of appropriateness board for Evanston, and she said, mean. It's just a tough one.
Tell me when to start.
Okay, well, I'll press that button, and I think we're ready.
Okay. Figure out what day it is.
The 14th.
14th.
That's
Wednesday. Good evening. This is the regular, well, it's not the regular, this is, last week would have been the regular. This is a meeting of the Architectural Board of Review, Wednesday, August 14th. Can we have a roll call, please? Call to order and roll call.
Sure.
I didn't pound my stick. Okay, now we're
Member Callahan.
Here.
Member Dahlman.
here.
Member Kerouac.
Here.
Chairman Hunter.
Here.
And members Waymeyer and Deegan are absent.
Okay, before we get into the agenda, I want to mention that we no longer have with us the member Carol Russ. Carol has been with this board for probably in the neighborhood of 15 years, and due to circumstances, she moved out of town, so she can no longer officially be on the board. Carol was a really strong voice about a lot of different things, and she was also on a lot of other boards too, and so she will be sorely missed. So, and also now we have a hard time replacing Carol. So if anybody knows of a registered architect or landscape architect out there in TV land that would like to sit up here, it's be nice to be able to fill our quota back up. So
I'm not sure you can replace Carol.
no,
We can add a new member,
can-
but it won't be
we can add a new
replacing.
member. That's right. You're right about that. Okay, so the consideration of the July 2nd ABR meeting minutes. Any comments, corrections? I was not here for that one, so. Not hearing any?
No, Carol's not here, so we don't have the punctuation.
I don't know what we're gonna do.
But I'm have to look at it harder next time.
Yeah, anyway, so any comments? If not,
No.
Looks good.
motion to approve?
Motion to approve as submitted?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, do we have any people in the audience right now that are not on the agenda for tonight's meeting? No? Yes?
With regards to the topic for tonight with the Artesian Park, I know you guys are going to talk about it, but from a homeowner standpoint, within the proximity of the park, I'd like to go ahead and address the board.
That's,
The comments now?
no, not yet. No, we'll get to that. So you are going to speak to this agenda item? Okay. And when that time comes, then I'll call on you and you'll be up there. Okay, let's see. I guess the next thing then is
So, yeah, for Jawa, we'll announce it, see if anybody's here, and then.
is
continue
anybody
to
here for
September
Jawa?
3rd. For the,
No, Ron,
No.
they're not?
they're not.
Okay.
Okay.
So that, they were going to be involved in a review, to site plan review to replace some benches and lights at the water agency out there. So that will be postponed until, what did you say?
it's September 3rd.
September 3rd.
Yep.
Okay, so moving along to the next item is consideration of a sign permit application for Anytime Fitness at 219 South Waukegan Road. Somebody here to speak to that? Okay, if you'd go up there, please, and state your name and explain your situation.
Good evening. My name is Pat Tomatz with Anytime Fitness, here seeking approval for the exterior signage permit for the building space.
Okay. Anybody got any comments to that? Tim, I'll start with you.
I think the signage that you have, submitted here looks fine to me. What was the exemption that you were talking about, it says maximum number of wall signs allowed is 1 per lot. What is that?
Yeah, so for carriageway, wall signs are always an exemption right now because our code only allows 1 per lot, and we've been allowing at
okay.
least 1 per tenant for some situations, some tenants 2 where they border 176. So, yeah, that's one of those exemptions that always comes up that maybe we'll get corrected with our new sign code
Okay.
amendments in the future.
Okay. Yeah, other than that,
Neil?
looks pretty straightforward.
The only comments I had was where the words would be centered, above the arch, there's a roll-lock of bricks, and above that, there's the white of the fascia. And what seems to look best is when the letters are centered between those, and it's not clear on here as to where they're gonna be. But that's, I was looking at the colors, and I'm comfortable with the colors, but the little figure you have that's to the left of it kind of gets, it seems like with the 2 colors, it gets lost in there.
Okay.
I think when it's lit up at night, it'll show up just fine, but, and I was surprised that the background for the main sign on the building is the brick color, but the other one is the purple color. If that's what you guys want, that's fine.
That's the standard brand logo, is the purple color for that on the very left-hand side of the side there. And if that would be permissible, then yes, that would be ideal for the sign, to have that purple color. And I'll put in a note to but I'm not exactly sure about the exact placement either, about centering it between the top and bottom. And that's something I'll make sure to pass along to the installers, because I agree. I think it would be much better to have that centered within that space.
Yeah, it's not centered within like the bottom of the brick arch. There's a roll-lock of brick, and then there's another roll-lock. It's the upper one.
Right.
From the top of the upper one to the bottom of the white fascia. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I've got, Bob.
Okay. Matt?
I got nothing additional. It would have been the same with the location. Everything else looks great.
Okay.
And likewise, I'm not quite sure where the center is. It looks to me like the centering is including the purple man.
Like it says 16 feet 9 to the top of the sign, but I don't know where 16 feet 9 is.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I think it includes the little runner guy. And I'm just wondering if it wouldn't make sense to center the lettering itself over the arch and let the runner guy just be out there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what you were saying, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Well, are you talking about centering it side to side? I think Neil was talking about centering it vertically in the space.
Well, both.
Yeah, okay,
Well, yeah, side to side is what I'm talking about.
right, yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
Nope.
All right, then we have a motion to approve this, do we move this forward?
I'll make a motion that we
Recommend.
approve this with,
Recommend, right.
Recommend.
recommend that we approve it, subject to the lettering being centered left to right above the arch, and centered vertically between the top of the roll-lock of brick and the bottom of the white fascia.
And just to clarify very quickly, for the centering between right and left, would you like to have it centered with regards to just the letters, or would you like to have that purple Running Man logo also?
With the letters.
Okay. So
They're gonna
centering
be
with
the
the
thing
letters.
that sticks out the most.
Okay.
Okay.
I second.
Did somebody make a motion?
Yep,
Yeah.
Neil
You
did.
Okay. All right. We gotta do a roll call on this then.
Okay. Member Kerouac,
Aye.
Member Callahan,
Aye.
Aye.
Member Dahlman,
Aye.
and Chair Hunter.
All right.
Okay, all aye. The recommendation passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, next we have a public hearing to review a site plan to modify a baseball field path and associated structures in Artesian Park, 10 East Sheridan Place. Since this is a public hearing and everybody that's going to speak to this, either as part of the presentation or is a neighbor, needs to get sworn in, so if you'd stand and raise your right hand and say, I swear to tell the truth and the whole truth on all the testimony I am about to give. I do. Okay, thank you. Ron, you want to start?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ron Salsky, Executive Director for the Lake Bluff Park District. We have Gary Biskowski, he's our planner and working with the Baseball Association, as well as Doug Cassidy, who's the president of the Baseball Association as well. So I'll start off, I'll turn it over to Doug, and then turn it back to you, and it goes out to the residents. So tonight, the Baseball Association and Park District are jointly seeking approval of the project presented in front of you. We feel there are multiple benefits that Doug will explain a little bit more. We've outlined our plans, and as I would like to start off is answer a few questions related to the letters that were sent in, and then I'll turn it over to Doug. One of the letters submitted by resident David Graff had some concerns about parking and can we work with the school district. I did speak with Dr. Jean Sophie, and she's very supportive of doing an agreement where people are allowed to park there for the baseball games, and we would add signage and things like that and communication. So she was very supportive of that. And then in terms of Dr. Schweitzer, I did talk with Dr. Schweitzer about his concerns in general. He's very supportive of this project. He just had some concerns about balls getting hit and being a home run derby all the time, and Doug can talk about that. But in the end, he liked the direction we're going. He actually felt it would be better in the sense of balls not flying in to his house consistently. Sometimes it's just from shortstop to first base, or it's even a foul ball. So he felt that from the standpoint of issues from the last years and years and years that I've worked with him, that this would reduce a lot of any potential damage or any safety issues. But I'll turn it over to Doug, and if then there's some technical questions, Gary can answer those related to the plans. So thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Again, I'm Doug Cassidy. I'm the board president for the Lake Bluff Youth Baseball Association. I've been president for 4 years now. I've been on the board for about 9 now. I played Lake Bluff baseball when I was a kid. And Rosenthal Field, as it stands today, is in need of some maintenance. We haven't done much on it for a long time. We lost a lot of ball games this year with all the grooming and wear and tear. We've got lips on the infield. The sod is in bad shape. There's safety issues, frankly, right now. Some kids will take the balls in the face with that lip, and it's just time to go in and do some significant maintenance. Ever since I started on the board, we've been talking about what if we move the field to the other side and what would be the benefits of it. Through the years, we never really had the funds or the motivation to do it. But since we are going to put some investment into the fields, we're talking about, what's the process? What do we need to do in order to look at the feasibility of it? What are the benefits, and how do we move forward? So here we are tonight. As I've been talking to our board and people in the community and people in Lake Bluff baseball, there is a lot of favoritism to it. Number one, there is a maintenance issue. We need to work on that field and get it fixed up. But, when we look at putting the field on the other side, I think there's a big safety factor. I think you're all probably aware of what happened last year. It was a different field, but that young man, Gus Back, who was hit by a car at West Fields, that really opened our eyes to a lot of things. And when you look at the current Rosenthal today, not only are there balls going into the residence field on right field, but where Sheridan Place is, there's so many balls, foul balls, that roll into the street, come back, and we do put fencing up, but it's just not an ideal place to have kids playing baseball right on the perimeter of that field. We feel like if we have the diamond on the other side in that proximity, there's going to be substantially more of a safety perimeter around the children playing ball. And really, ultimately, too, we feel like it's going to add to the community aspect of it. Having the diamond down on the southeast side today is fine, but as you know, Wyszynski Field, where the ice rink is one of our core fields where the younger kids play. We've got the warming house there, the bathrooms are there, we do our concessions, and there's a lot of support and feeling that it would enhance the baseball experience and the park experience, having the diamond down over on the other side. Really, so from our standpoint, we want to improve the fields and make sure it's safe. We've gone through a lot of work to ensure that the construction design is sound. The distances on the fences and the proximity of everything is ideal. Understanding there's some concerns about balls going into left field. I'll say, being around Lake Bluff baseball for a long time, that's a once-in-a-generation shot for one of these kids in Lake Bluff to hit the ball that far. But it's not impossible. I'm not saying it's not impossible. But on the left field side, we have 260 feet to the corner, 225 on the other side. Dead center, if we were going to get into the residence, by my unofficial measurement, that's at least 300 feet to the arborvitaes on the border. So if that ball was going to fly over those arborvitaes, it's at least 320 in the air. And that's just not a ball that's typically hit by kids at this age. Now, we could have some pony level kids at the 7th and 8th grade level play, but again, it's not a common factor. There will be less balls going over that perimeter compared to today with all the foul balls that can go. And so right now we want to have the conversation about feasibility and concerns, and we hope that we can gain approval on this so we can start moving to next steps. Okay.
Okay, great.
Should I stand down now, or you want me to stay up? Okay, thank you.
Why don't we have our residents stand up first before we get into this? David, you want to start off? You wrote that letter. Are you going to talk about this?
I'm sorry.
Dave Graff.
David Graff, 111 East Prospect, immediately adjacent to Artesian. I really didn't plan on speaking tonight. My
You don't have
letter,
to.
hopefully, I appreciate you reading it, considering it. As I said, I'm in support of this project. I think it makes a lot of sense to me. What this does, from my vantage point, provides an opportunity to enter or bring into the conversation the impact that traffic and folks coming to and from Artesian Park. Frankly, as it currently is today, I'm no traffic engineer, but we typically park as close as we can to what we're going to do. I think this might drive a number of people to come in the 100 block of Prospect and try and park in a lot that already won't support the tennis court and the field that's all over there. I'm sure there's a resolve to this. I think it's something that, in talking with Ron, some conversation has begun, and that's really what I'm hopeful for. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right, thanks, Dave. And sir, you wanted to speak to this project also?
Would it be helpful if I put an aerial that showed a larger area on the screen, including your house? Everyone can see where things are.
Yeah, so while Mike pulls up the information, just to do a quick introduction, Matt Winnick at 125 Ravine Avenue here in Lake Bluff. So if you guys take a look at the overhead, that laser pointer doesn't show up that far, but there's properties 1, 2, 3 that are all labeled 115 up on the board. I am just to the east of him at 125. And again, as I look at the ball fields, we have 2 little boys that are up and coming, 4 and 2-year-old approximately right now. And as a result, we use the park on a regular basis, right? So we're a fan of the park, we do enjoy it. Now, the one part that has come to light, we moved into that property back in 2015. And then over the past couple of years, what we've incurred are just these tremendous amounts of water that are filling the south property of that 125. Now again, as I heard Dave Graff talk a little bit about, expertise, et cetera. This is just based on observations. I don't have a civil background, a civil engineering background, but what we do have is we have a amount of water that ends up coming in from the park. I've got pictures here to show that asphalt path or the cinder path underwater, and it tends to actually just follow between the property lines, and then it ends up making its way eastbound, and then it wants to just cut straight across, and I've had to build these makeshift berms to keep it from infiltrating and flooding our basement. So, mind if I head up to the board to kind of show you guys the quick line, and I've got some images here as well to show you too.
Sure, we should have our portable microphone, but maybe we don't there. It's helpful. Let's see if I can get it.
Again, the area of concern is right about here. What we have is just, the encouragement is, before we go ahead and do any approval of this one, do an assessment of the current drainage. Because right now, as it stands, what happens is the water ends up pooling here, flows here. We talked about those arborvitaes a little bit earlier, right? Those arborvitaes make a nice hedge line, but then they also cause all the water to kind of flow right into here. Ends up filling in the properties here, and then once it actually hits, thanks, Mike. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy to. Okay. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
That works.
Working?
I might need to turn it on here on the
That is what-
dais, but let's see here. Audio. Okay, it should work now.
Test.
Yep, now you
Okay,
got it.
great.
Okay.
So again, water flows in here, and then it ends up going right into here, and it ends up hitting the south of our house. And now, without making these berms that I've had to do to then deflect it, to then have it follow the property lines all the way out to Ravine Avenue. And again, it's not just a little bit of water, guys, it's a tremendous amount. Luckily enough, this property here was built with a raised ranch appearance. So as far as like the basement windows go, they're all above ground level. So window wells aren't being filled up. But nonetheless, what happens is if I don't have these makeshift berms, it all hits the south property line, causes a lot of hydrostatic pressure, and it's actually caused a bunch of leaks in the basement. So without the friends at Permaseal, et cetera, to go ahead and help mitigate this, and also these temporary berms, there's a lot of water that's making its way down here to then cause this, and now then to actually make its way out to Ravine Avenue. The tough part about that is when it does that, and then it ends up filling in this neighbor's driveway into her garage. So, without further ado, there is a garage back here that's got a basement. This one, again, I anticipate water is filling in his sump pump. He's discharging it right back into here, and it just keeps filling it all the way here. And each one of these homes all have a sump pump that is exiting into the rear of the house, and it's just compounding it all the way through. So, as we get into tonight's discussion, looking for support from the architectural board to go ahead and understand what is being proposed here as far as drainage goes to help mitigate the amount of water that is filling in amongst the property lines here. Again, I'm being selfish here talking about my property because I end up receiving the most of it, and as a result, making these temporary solves each time we get a nice saturating rainfall.
Has this been happening as long as you've lived in your house?
It's only been happening since approximately 2017, so the past couple of years. Again, when I look back when we first moved in 2015 and 2016, I don't know if we didn't have as much rainfall at that time,
That's my point, yeah.
but as a result, those could be the other parts to it. Now again, when we did purchase the property, I did see these, makeshift French drains, all these additional water mitigation systems that had already been put into place. For example, there's a perforated corrugate pipe that kind of bisects that land to help ensure the water flow would hit that before it hits the back of the house. There's a temporary French drain put in on the south of that wall there. So all the indicators are telling me that it did have the same situation before we showed up, just the amount of time since I've been there. I hadn't seen it until the past couple of years. So as we look at the other changes here, I don't know if you guys have had any other modifications to these properties, et cetera, but that would be the only other part to keep in mind as we get into this one. Each one of these guys, the neighbors around me, they all have to put their water somewhere. It's going into the property lines, it's just happening to land in our backyard. To prevent it from going into our basement, we have all of these, like I talked about, the makeshift items to help keeping it out of the house. What we wanted to go ahead and do is we want to get a permanent solve eventually for this. So what we've done is we've already taken the measures, working with Mike and Jeff here at the village. We've gone out, gotten a topographical survey for this small 50 by 135 plot of land. Again, a significant amount of money put into it just to understand how do we help put the water where it needs to be. What I just want to make sure is as we get into building the ball field, we don't have any additional water, or if there is additional water, let's put in some of that drain tile that should be in the park to help move it from flowing into the neighbors, into the surrounding properties.
Mike, do you have any comments on this? Have you been involved in this?
Yeah, and I shared these plans with our village engineer, Jeff Hansen, and, he felt that the changes would not send any additional water that way. Of course, they also don't solve the existing problem, and the field's very flat, as a baseball field should be. But, none of the proposed changes would make it worse.
Dave, do you have any problem with water?
Well, since you asked, I would agree with his observation. I would also tell you, though, that the homes on the north side of Ravine, they take a lot of water from the houses on 100 block of East Prospect. And the pitch truly runs down that way. I know recently, Mike, you can talk to it's the second house in on the north side. I don't recall the address number. But they did some renovations and they were required as part of that to put drainage. Oh, yeah, thanks so much.
Join the party.
They were required to put drainage in and so forth. What surprises me with the whole thing here is we have an open drainage ditch that's running through the park and then disappears and winds up in Ravine Park. It seemed to me that listening to this, you put in some drains to the eastern edge of the park and ran them to the open ditch. Maybe that'll take care of your problem. Certainly won't put any more there. Since, as I'm listening to this, the other part, and I didn't mention mine, but this 100 block of Ravine is probably also going to pick up part that you're not getting now. I'm sure that all of a sudden closest to the home plate.
Understood. Yeah, again, we see it every time the school has an outing, right? It all fills up, and I feel like I'm at Wrigley Field based on the cars that come in and et cetera. But looking at the opportunity here, I got some pictures here to show you guys. I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't a tremendous amount of water, so I'm going to just pass these to the board if possible.
Sure.
So first page is showing from the park those cinder paths all underwater. And then as you go east of the park, you can just see, if this were to be a video, it would be running water through that white iron fence of the neighbor at 115. And then here is where it all lands, and you can see this in our backyard. This
Is that back of your garage or house?
That's my neighbor on East Sheridan Place. So he's on the 126 number. He's got this great big barn garage.
Yeah.
Right? So that's here on the board.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the red you see. And then these are the shadows from these trees in our backyard.
Sure.
And then this right here is, almost like a 20 by 20 section that just pools, and then finally until it hits this cusp, and then it starts to slow down and then make its way out.
Thank you.
Just some additional supplemental photos of that property line, and then all this additional buildup from that basement underneath the garage that's sending water to, because I would anticipate he's getting the bulk of it, and then it just gets transferred down. So again, in closing remarks here, guys, I want to belabor it any longer. As you guys look at the plan up on the board, just encouraging to address the drainage, any additional features that could be implemented to help mitigate the amount of water that moves from the park eastbound into the neighborhood would be highly encouraged, please.
When you get this much water, how long does it take for it to go down?
So if I don't do anything about it, it can stay there for days.
How many?
It can stay there for days.
It doesn't really have any place to go.
Yeah, correct. So it just sits there until either evaporation or until the soil around it dries out, and then it can soak in. So then I have to drag a pump out to then help move it out to Ravine to then hit the storm sewers that are right at the cusp of Evanston and Ravine Avenue.
So obviously, you're not the only one that's affected by this.
Well,
And it's,
unfortunately, it all pitches to me, and I end up getting the bulk of it, right? So
but
everyone else
it's
is...
coming through everybody else's to get to you.
Correct.
And so this seems like it's, just off the top of my head, and maybe we need to ask the engineer. This doesn't seem like it's a baseball field problem, it seems like it's a village problem that should be dealt with at the same time. Because I feel for you, there's an issue here. And I don't know how one tackles that. That's not within our purview, but we can certainly make some recommendations, whatever they might be. Did you have any,
Yeah, I'll pass it over.
Good evening, I'm Gary Biskowski, I'm the district planner. Can we get that other civil engineering?
Sure. The drawing on the board, yep.
And what I'd like to do is look at this just for a half a second, and I think I'm trying to get my little pointer.
Let's see, you want the other one, though, the black and white one, this one?
No, it could be that yellow one.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
And I'm trying to find my,
Yeah, I tried it too with my laser pointer.
It shows up there. I saw it from
Yeah.
there.
It's there.
There it is.
yeah,
Yep.
okay. Maybe I'll just point it out to you. Is this on?
It doesn't seem like it's on again.
It is on, yes. I
No.
turned the volume down a little bit, but
Okay.
it's on.
Okay.
And each of you have this drawing in front of you. You can see these little spot elevations
Yep.
within the area. Kevin said that there's water puddling in this area. The plan is to remove this area. Presently, there is a lip that has formed by dragging the field. They drag in one direction, all that sand goes out there. If you were to walk out there, there's actually a rise right behind as it enters the turf area. You'll see it's about 3 or 4 inches high. That's just the sand that's been kicked out over a number of years of dragging that field. Right up in this area here is the highest point of this entire parcel as in this area through here. The water then funnels through this point, it then comes through, and if you look at each of those numbers, if you can read those little numbers there, they do drop in elevation. So the water does puddle at this point. It comes through that little throttle right through here, and then it comes through, and then it runs down in this direction. This area through here is slightly higher than this area here, and then right up and through here is about the highest point. The new path as proposed would be at the same elevation, such that the water from this path would continue to move in this direction and then follow that course. And we'll talk about this swale that we're creating out in this area here. But from this point here, it does flow back. Now, under duress situations, and I say in excess of 1 inch per hour, and I'm not speaking as a hydrologist, but when you get that amount of water, it puddles. This area is flat. So that if you had 1 inch of water and you had 1/10 of existing grade differential, that 1 inch might overcresses and begin to flow in that direction. At some point, once that water had dropped down due to that flow in this direction, there is no more water coming from the field itself in this direction. Now, 2 inches of rain, 3 inches of rain within that period of time is going to increase that amount of water that flows. As it flows between, in this area through here, there's a large oak tree right here, real large oak tree. This is a red maple. I believe it's about a 20-inch red maple in this area through here. Those grades are pretty established in this area as being high. And then as it comes in here, you can start seeing these contours right up in here start dropping off to this gentleman's property.
And it goes down about 2 feet, 677 down to 675.
Within this area right up and through here. So it drops off pretty significantly. Now, one of the things, as I say, as we take this field out here, and I'm going to ask
Oh, okay, sure, you want me to do that now?
Because I think it depicts a little bit better where I'm talking about this throttle point. Because that drawing has right here, this being a whole contour, there's a little bit of differential between the two. So when I say it throttles, this water here is being throttled through this little area. It's not going to go uphill, this being a higher contour and this being a high contour. It's being throttled through this point here. And I mentioned that area outside of here. When we come back in here, we propose, and you can almost see this little lighter area. I'm guessing that that's a mixture of sand and natural soils, such that it begins to dry. You can almost see this sandy, grassy area up in here. That will be reduced down by about that much. And what we most likely do is bring that contour back in here, opening up this point here, to allow more water to go through there. And my opinion would be is it would lessen the puddling that would occur and potentially going over into the properties to the east. Now, the other thing we're doing is this whole area is basically a flat area. You can see these contours. Short of Wrigley Field, Soldier Field, or Toyota Park, this field does not drain very well. At minimum, a field without under drainage needs to have at least 1 to 1.5% slope for water to move satisfactorily across. This field does not have it. It is flat. So when you get that deluge, all this flat is being puddled, okay? And then it slowly relieves down to the bottom. One of the things that we are doing as we create this if we could get back to the other picture.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
With the new orientation of the ball diamond in this area, we didn't want to push all that water against that infield up in this area here. This being the new infield area, which is the dirt area. All this water is moving in this direction, and now we're beginning to want this to be playable. This has got to be the area that's got to dry out the quickest. We're bringing in a dirt infield. What we're proposing to do is actually create a swale back up in this area, okay, such that as this water comes down, it's picked up by a swale that's 1%, and a structure here, and a structure over at that point. Do you have that black and white one? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure, I can,
I wish I had the flicker to
I'll get my work out. Yeah, right.
Okay, there we go, right there. See, we're putting actually an under drain at this point here, and an under drain here, so that as this water comes down, it naturally flows in this direction. It will end up hitting this swale, and then be carried away, in a more expedient way, and then this field will drain back into that swale and head in that direction. So ultimately, the improvement in the ball field, in my opinion, is going to lessen the likelihood that the water is going to get off the Park District property onto private residences.
Would there be any advantage to redirect some of the water that may still, I'm gonna just, lack of a monument point, go through those, or to those arborvitaes, to on the east side of that path, just build it up a little bit and sort of make a very small 6-inch berm? It would somehow redirect it farther into the way you're trying to get everything to go. Or am I missing the boat somewhere?
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, it wouldn't take much. I mean, even we're proposing to put these evergreens in here. Once you put those evergreens in there and build a little mulch area and raise that up, you're going to prevent, in the event of that catastrophic or that, heavy rainfall that may cause puddling up in there. Once again, it would take an extensive hydrological study to understand what storms create that situation that where it puddles to the point where it is flowing there. Obviously, the residents been there and seen it puddle. I find it very difficult that there's a raging stream coming this way. It's an overflow.
It's pretty bad in the pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same thought. If we just take that line of evergreens and maybe extend that berm down to the south far enough that we're creating that, say, an 8-inch barrier so that, if it does puddle above the summit, like we're saying, that 2 inches, at least we have that curb effect to keep not private water back, but the public water on public land for you guys, and then direct it back. Because it goes kind of, the topo goes northeast, and then kind of straight north also as you get closer to the residence. So everything wants to kind of go towards you. So if we could divert part of it to the west, and instead of getting it, I think that's a good idea, Bob.
Yeah, just to chime in here, on those evergreens, they're still a little bit further north
Right.
than the property line where, like, the inception point is where it follows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. We'd want to bring that berm down,
correct.
at least to where all those lots hit, so that where that alley is, that kind of that channel of, if we can get past that point,
Sure.
I think that
But
might.
does the water eventually go into the culvert that's not on the map, that then goes down and empties into Ravine Park?
Through this gentleman's property?
No, I mean, any of what you're talking about.
Well, at this time, the water does come through here, and if you follow those contours, it's coming through, right up and through this area. This, as you look at those contours, and I'm talking less than 2/10 of fall between these contours in here, so it's very, very flat. And as we looked at that previous aerial photograph, there are no whole contours anywhere in this park. It appeared here, and it appeared here, and I think the next contour was out in here. In fact, here is the contour right over here. So this whole area is flat through this whole area. So you're talking 10/10 of fall that's running through 250 feet of area, very, very flat.
But to the right of the trees, the water goes to the northeast.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, it's coming right down here. It drops,
Right, it
it
goes
drops
to-
3 feet in
goes-
here, and that big oak tree is right here.
It kind of
And
moves
it goes
up.
back through there, and you can almost see a swale
Yeah.
in this gentleman's property on that contour, on that aerial photograph
Yeah.
where it comes down here. But I don't see any reason why, when this is constructed, that we can raise this up, half a foot, 8 inches, right at that pathway, and then at that point, it would then drop down a little steeper into the property line. But we would create a little bit of a berm up in here, and the only water that would actually enter the residence to the north would be that from the top of the berm down to the property line, which would be less than 15 feet of watershed.
Do you think that would help your problem?
One more question though for you. So, Robert, you mentioned that this might also be not just a baseball problem or a park district piece of it contributing to all the water that's coming in, but what about the village part you mentioned? So is there another committee I need to come to and talk about this with, or how would that work out?
Well, go ahead, Mike.
No, I don't think there really is any other committee for it. I mean, it's, the village doesn't own any land there, so the village really does drainage work on the village streets and right-of-ways, and, the park district is separate from the village, and obviously all those people are private property there, so there's really no potential village project there. Although if private property owners want to add storm sewers or something like that, we certainly, welcome that if they want to. And allow it,
Well,
Yeah,
I think that you've addressed this as far as you can, or do you think it needs, just based on what we just talked about, that's some more tweaking that may or may not solve the problem? And how do you solve the problem? By making the berm higher? That seems kind of like maybe not a good idea.
But at least you're
But
diverting the
we're trying to
water
divert
that
some of
wants
the
to
water.
go.
But
you're just
You're
trying
allowing
to-
the water that wants to go north and not overspill and then catch that slope and go back that way.
Yeah.
I
It
just
wants
wonder-
to go north, but if it overflows.
You're just making a higher curb,
Yeah.
basically,
It's a
to
curb.
keep the
That-
water.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah,
But
which-
what happens when that thing runs out? Where does it then just take a
It goes
bend
into
to the
the
east
street, I
again?
think.
Yeah, then it just keeps going, which I think is
Yeah,
good.
Or-
well, yeah, there's a stream along north of the field there
Yeah.
that runs from west to east,
Yeah.
and then that stream goes into a storm sewer that brings it down to the
Right,
ravine
right.
on the
But
east side of.
that's
Winston
that's
there.
not even up here, is it? It's
It's-
farther up?
This is the
Is this
stream
it right here?
Yeah. this
Okay,
is it
yeah,
here.
and there it is, okay, I
Yep.
take that back.
Yep.
So eventually it'll go into that stream is gonna be more wet than it is now.
Right, it's pretty wet now.
It's pretty dry right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to play in it.
And Mike,
Yeah.
just to help with the conversation really quick, can I toggle on the computer here to bring
Sure.
up that ball picture?
Sure.
So if you guys take a look up here on the board, what you guys are talking about, if that berm were to be there, and it were to be, set up like this, the only caution I would have is if you do that, it might end up going right into this property here. So we're just pushing water, into someone else's situation. Because the culvert, the opening isn't until right about here somewhere.
Yeah.
And then it becomes all underground underneath these front lawns of this row of houses.
That's kind of my point of what happens when you run out of berm?
Yeah.
If it doesn't make it all the way to the creek, and I guess that's what we need to do is,
Yeah. But you can see there's a swale there, where
Yeah.
the water wants to go to the west of 116.
right.
Yeah, and this right now is just, the open park, for those who are familiar, every fall, the Halloween fest they have that spooky
Right.
trail tucked
Yep.
in back here, and then that definitely sits underwater as well.
Yeah.
With it nowhere to go until it either evaporates or drains into the surrounding areas.
We're talking about a berm.
Berm is a heavy word for what I'm,
A little rise in the ground, from about this point here, back up to this point here.
Yeah.
Because at this point, once it gets, and ultimately, it's gonna get very close to this contour up in here.
Mhm.
So that all we're trying to do is steer that water.
Right.
And ultimately, the best place for that water to be conveyed is through the pathway.
Mhm.
The pathway has the greatest capacity to move that water swiftly down. So as long as this pathway is decreasing in elevation, it's gonna follow the pathway. It may follow the pathway, but then all of a sudden it may be running off this way, but this is gonna be the best way to convey that pathway, or that water.
Well, I think a concern with this is, I like the idea of the berm and what you said about it going down the pathway, but I think the homeowners have to recognize that when we get the 500-year flood that we get every 2 weeks this year, you're gonna get water. It's gonna overflow whatever they do. So, but that's gonna take hopefully that's more rare than I just said.
I get water and I live
Yeah.
down in the 300 block of Prospect, and my backyard looks like I've got ducks in it, so.
Oh, yeah, and again,
know,
I got
it's
the
just-
pictures to share with you guys here, because we have the exact same effect, kids' balls are floating across it. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, we put our waders on and go in it for a period of time, but again, I just can't run the risk of having to flood the basement.
Yeah.
Looking at, the other, pieces of it, we talked a little bit about the drainage that's being proposed, right at from the infield going into the outfield. Is there an opportunity to put drainage on the east side of the park?
I think that,
At least from the Park District standpoint, this is a project by the Baseball Association that we're just assisting with. So any additional costs, the Park District's not going to take on any additional costs related to this. It would be up to the Baseball Association if they want to take on any additional costs. So I just want to be able to respond. And so Doug got it.
If I might just, support, I feel for your issue, but, we have the funds, we're a nonprofit organization, we've worked hard to build the money to make this project work. And we're going to barely make this project financially if it gets approved, and additional factors like this are not something that we can take the cost on. So just for the record.
And the other thing is whatever would be built would have to be substantial to deal with that catastrophic event. And one would be naive to just wing it and say, let's put a 6-inch pipe in there, not knowing how much water needs to be conveyed and the number of structures. This could easily be a $20,000 or $30,000 project. There's trees that would be impacted as a result of underground drainage. Not only are you putting inlets in, but you're now creating swales within that area because the water needs to get to those structures and then it has to be conveyed to that stream itself. Once again, it would take a extensive hydrological study to understand how much water is actually being generated in this area, and then in turn that would drive how much would have to be done. And my opinion would be is it would become a project probably as large as what baseball is attempting to do on the surface.
In your opinion, to do the berming operation that we're talking about is, again, we're pushing dirt around anyway. It's a couple of guys with rakes doing some shaping before you put the trees in maybe, or, I mean, is that gonna be within the parameter of the association to bear?
Yeah, I can't speak for the association, but we're probably talking, maximum 3 semi-loads of topsoil that would be, created that little berm that give you that 8-inch to get that water moving in that direction. It would surely be that insurance little factor to say, hey, if we had this storm event that it created 6 inches of water in that area, and 6 inches of water is a lot of water. You have to imagine that whole area is going to be flooded by, I find it very hard to believe that you'd ever have 6 inches of water across this field. I mean, it would 2 inches of water, maybe 3 inches of water, possibly, but beyond that, to see 6 inches of water on there, so that berm is that insurance that would at least prevent that type of rain event from going to the north.
Okay, I don't know that if there's any more that we're able to do as far as the drainage situation, other than recommend that you pursue that idea. But the other part of the concern is this whole thing of parking. And Ron addressed that a little bit with the idea of the shared parking across the street. And I walked up and down the street the other day and I thought, Lake Bluff was a little lax in certain areas about, okay, you can park on both sides of the street so you can't ride your bicycle between the cars that are parked. It gets that narrow. There should be some way to develop some signage that helps some of this alleviate and make people really, they have to walk the distance off the path and not jam up Prospect or overload the parking lot. Parking lot's not that big. So Ron, when you briefly touched on that idea with signage, and anything to add, how were you gonna do that?
I didn't get into that with Jean Sophie, or we didn't have an opportunity to talk, but a lot of times what we use are sandwich board signs that go up, so it's not permanently affixed. So it's really difficult for us to say playground parking only or tennis court parking, but what they do currently at West Park is some sandwich board signs and things like that, and in all our communications, we'd probably, through our communications and theirs, designate the lot as the parking. The challenge may be if there is a school function of some sort, that's a whole different ballgame, and so that's something that has to be addressed. But I haven't spent much time. I just finished a conversation with Dr. Sophie yesterday.
Do we have no parking signs on this side of the street
No. People park there all the time, I know.
I know, but I'm
But I
talking
mean,
about,
and there's
you
just
know,
barely room for a
there-
car to get through.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we're open to any permanent signage of some sort.
Again, this
so.
is now the village sign
Right.
issue, and,
Well, and besides signage, I'm sure the Baseball Association has communications with its members and could, include info about parking is available in middle school, in that.
yeah.
Yeah, agreed, and we're constantly sending out emails, especially last year, coming back to the young man that got hit by the car. That was really rattling for us, and we put new procedures and information on our website about flow and the West Campus, and we'll be happy to communicate appropriately any parking procedures, but I think signage is going to be most important. So I think the sandwich boards are one idea, but I think permanent signage is good too, and we would go as far as putting anything on our backstops or anything that's appropriate that's not too obtrusive to the community, of course, but we fully support the parking issue. I see it myself. We play on that field over there, and there's cars up on the sidewalk all the way down, and more importantly, it's not just the community, it's also the families that come from other communities for our travel baseball program. They don't know, so we got to make sure that they understand where the traffic flow should go. So we'll support that 100%.
And I'm wondering if it wouldn't be incumbent on the village to just put parking one side only, or however they would work the sign, and those would be permanent. Because it's not just during baseball games that's an issue. I mean, it's an issue all over town.
Yeah.
Whenever something's going on, people are parking on both sides of North Avenue for most of the way down the street, and you cannot drive between two cars. That's a very narrow street. So this is not unique to just the baseball games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could look into.
But it would help to
signage.
at least say you can't park on both sides of Prospect. Does that alleviate anybody's concerns? Yes, no? Because we're gonna move forward here.
I guess I have one more.
Do you have one more? Okay.
What's the new scoreboard gonna look like?
So, good question. I'll give you my opinion. For the scope of the project right now, and for the budget we have, we're going to leave the current scoreboard alone. I know we had mentioned it in the letter, but I want to go back to the old manual scoreboards. That electronic scoreboard we have hasn't been working for 2-3 years. It's off and on, and the gentleman that sold us that scoreboard years ago, before my time, we can't find him. He's the only guy that can maintain it. So we got to do something with it. But it's a nice structure, and we've got some ideas about maybe how to convert that current one into a nice manual scoreboard like the other fields. Or we'll just invest into a new one at some point, but I don't think that'll be part of the scope of this project today. We only have really the budget to move this field, and we're going to reallocate the current backstop over, and we've got the new dugouts that we put on Wyszynski, those nice green covers. We're going to do the same thing. It's going to look really nice, but we're going to really be as budget frugal as possible.
So the scoreboard is just a future submission?
Yes. At the time, we're thinking, okay, we could do it, but I think right now, this for the capacity we have, perhaps we readdress it in the spring. But right now, for this, our window is to do this in the fall. We can't wait till the spring because, we're under ice until opening day every year. So we have to break ground on this in September, October. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait till next fall.
So you're not doing anything with lighting?
No, we have no desire for lighting,
No night
no
games.
intent, nor do we have the budget for it. So that's not even on the table.
Okay. Any other questions, Tim?
No, I'm
Yeah.
On that one, so you asked about, the concerns, again, without hearing an opportunity. Thank you.
Without hearing an opportunity to add drainage other than, the increase of the soil level here, again, that's my concern as a N of one homeowner on this property line. Again, that's where I would not encourage to proceed with what is being proposed at this time then. So again, I do understand the whole cost objective to it. We talked about numbers, $20,000 to $30,000. Again, guys, that's what I'm being faced by talking to excavators and landscapers just to help regrade this single plot of land when they keep coming through with proposals that'll even exceed $50,000 just to make it where it needs to be. So just to give the context there, again, everyone's on a budget, just to make sure that we have a solid plan to address any drainage that could be coming from the public park into the private residences.
Well, Well, I don't think we can guarantee, based on what we've talked about, that that won't happen, but I think what we can say is that it's going to certainly be, I mean, I'm just talking for the engineer here now, it's going to alleviate most of it. Is that correct? Am I just,
What we're doing is going to improve the situation.
And some of that water, it sounds like, is coming from the houses on Sheridan Place, from their lots, the 112 through 126 there too, it looks like, from the contours.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, I think
runs.
every bit of water that they pick up, they're dumping into the back,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just wants to keep going.
There's a swale right there. That water is coming through here. It's right in through here, right? Yes. So that, all this water in through here is all funneled through this area. It's gonna funnel through here, it's coming through here, and it's getting there. Is there structure there? Or is that a high point? But you can see it coming through here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The drain is the dark point by the sidewalk on the south side of the street.
Right there?
Lower, south side of the street, the dark circle there. No, to your left, right there.
Right there?
No, dark
drain.
circle.
Right up in there?
Dark circle to your left.
There?
Yep, right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
what say you people? What do you think? I mean, we've got a resident that is affected by this, that is not convinced it's going to work. We don't know what the solution is, but it would, if we don't do something, the project will not go ahead at all.
Well, I don't think they're doing anything to exacerbate the problem, so I feel good about that. It's not like you're creating something that's making the matter worse, so that's good. I think what we're doing is doing kind of the lightest hand we can without forcing someone to spend real money for what is kind of a natural grade. It is kind of how the sites, I have the same thing. I'm in the lowest point, our car flooded 3 feet into our car because of how Lake Bluff is just bad with drainage. And it's hard to know who to blame. You don't really blame anybody, it's just the way it's set up. I think if we do the best we can, given the situation with creating that berm, knowing that we're maintaining as much water as we can, not coming from public to private, but knowing that you're also getting all that water from south of you going towards, you're just unfortunately at a bad spot, and your garage is right in the way. That water just wants to go right through your garage.
Not my garage, the neighbor's garage. So he acts as this highest point, which then causes it all to come. And again,
Yeah.
if there's another appointment I need to go to, Mike, you just let me know, because again, these guys have all these detached garages without downspouts, and all that water shed off those roof lines. It just floods that area between the property lines, and it just unfortunately lands right on the south of my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, if someone were coming in to build a new detached garage in those locations today, I think we'd be likely to tell them to connect all that to the storm sewer, but I don't know what happened many years ago there.
Yeah, you could almost take every neighborhood and have
Yeah.
the same situation.
Yeah.
It's bad everywhere. Every neighborhood has a backyard ravine that catches someplace, it seems like. It's just tough. It's unfortunate for all of us. So, and someone's gonna catch the brunt of it, and you're here because you catch the brunt of it. Yeah. If it was someone else, they would be in your seat and you would be at home. So there's gonna be one person on each block and I'm the one on my block that catches the brunt of it, and it's no fun. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to me that the reorientation of the baseball field is going to add any issues, and in fact, it will help some of the issues. But as long as we're, again, pushing dirt around, we have an opportunity to do something, and something is better than nothing. It may not solve all your problem, but your problem is not necessarily related to the relocation of the field.
Yeah. Is there
No.
some way to contour the paving path, so maybe it's a little bit of this, so the water kind of aqueducts out
A chute.
instead of just straight? I don't know, I'm just trying to think of other ways to, get that water out of there.
You know, that path is the main way for kids to get from the school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
The
not, I
town.
don't want to make,
Yeah,
the
you
Roman
make it-
aqueduct, but if there's just a, low point, so it's.
But it's already sloping downhill.
I think, the way the field's set up right now, it's unusable, basically. I think we were able to play 2 games this year,
Yeah.
my son. So, and I don't think changing, or flipping the field around is gonna really do anything with the water, make it worse or better. And it might make it better, because you do have a drain now that's out in the middle, moving water into that, the open creek, so. I mean, I'm for it, really, the way it is.
Any other comments? Okay. Somebody make a motion.
Are we approving, recommending?
Recommending.
I'll try. I recommend that we approve the site plan for the new baseball field as submitted, with the additional requirements of creating a berm along the east side of the new path where the new evergreens are going, and extending as far south as possible to divert the water back into the public way, and not to minimize the overflow from the baseball field, the public space, into the private yards.
Second.
Did you want any condition on parking?
Can we do that?
We can recommend to the village that they do,
Yeah.
I mean, the park district and the school board will get together to do
Yeah.
what they're talking about with the
Yeah, I-
sandwich board signs.
yeah,
But
I don't-
I think we could recommend that the village put some, no parking this side or
Yeah.
one side.
I
parking.
recommend that the parking be, this is a hard, I don't want, but do we want to limit to one side? Limit parking to one side of the street? And is that at all times, just during game time?
I think it's
Well, I
also,
don't know.
Because, I
It's
mean, it's
not-
hard for us to start dictating.
Yeah. Right, maybe we shouldn't
Yeah.
really attach that to the.
I don't,
I
I
d-
don't think
I-
it should be
That
attached
seems
to
way
it.
beyond my,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nothing to do with, I feel that's
Village's street,
beyond
yeah,
our
Park
issue.
District
Yeah.
Street, yeah.
it
right.
is just, Dave, you have to drive up there to get in your house, and I imagine it's a little risky sometimes. You want to pull your mirrors in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Could they ever use that open land, next to the parking lot in the, I mean, is
It's
that,
not open.
well,
That belongs to, a combination of that belongs to Don Mahan's.
Oh, does it?
house, Yeah.
okay.
As a past precedent or
Yeah.
current
Yeah,
setup,
yeah.
the south side of Ravine Avenue
Yeah.
has no parking signs on it.
Yeah,
So the dead-end street up on the board there, only cars can park on the north side of it.
right, yeah.
Dave? We gotta, still have a motion on the table. We'll keep going.
To the formation of your motion and so forth, personally, I don't think you need any verbiage in there regarding parking.
Yeah.
My intent was for some discussion. I've heard a full understanding by these folks. So the attempts will. And as an aside, when it comes to signage and one parking zone on 100 block of Prospect, there's a sign in front of my house that says no parking here to the corner. No one.
They're on the sidewalk in front of your house.
Park on the sidewalk,
Mhm.
it's inevitable, they're gonna park on one side of the street.
Yeah.
What I've heard, quite frankly, is addressed, what I hope to, a bit of a conversation. I don't think you need anything in your motion on that.
Okay, well, we didn't put it
Yeah,
in there,
I-
so. Thanks, Dave.
Your motion and seconded was not was
Without the
without
park, yeah,
parking.
no parking issue.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion on it? All right, roll call.
Member Kerouac,
Aye.
Member Callahan,
Aye.
Member Dahlman,
Aye.
and Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. So we can put that recommendation on the next village board agenda.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, okay.
26th.
We have the bridge thing.
Right, yep, we have a bridge item. Oh, yeah, it would be, yeah, I should have a copy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I know that doesn't really
Thanks a lot.
satisfy you totally, but it's the best we can do.
I'll take the opportunity to get the berm up there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Landscape to help support.
Yeah, great, yeah.
right, thank you.
Yep, good luck.
I turned it off here, so
Okay,
it's
great.
not broadcasting. Yep.
I don't even need to look at this.
Okay, so for the bridge, the village is doing a joint project with the county and with some state IDOT funds to replace the pedestrian bridge with a wider one because it's much too narrow today, only 5 feet wide. You can,
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
it's kind of hard to get through that.
A lot of things ridiculous about it.
As soon as I saw this, I called up Mike and I said, what's wrong with the Core 10 bridges that are going all across every place? And you said,
Yeah, so,
This looks like a bridge you can drive across.
well, it is. It's funny you should say that. It is built to that standard, and there's a reason why. Because it doesn't meet the height requirements for a pedestrian bridge. So normally pedestrian bridges are higher, and then that allows them to be built less solidly, because bridges that are down at the minimum
Oh, yeah.
elevation above the road, they want to be able to withstand a certain
Some
amount
impact.
of hit if someone, raises their dump truck or has something too high or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, this happens to be between two bridges that are lower, existing lower bridges, but there's still always the possibility someone could drive under the first bridge, raise the back of their dump truck, and then hit this bridge. So IDOT said if you're gonna, get the variance to be lower than the pedestrian bridge height, you've gotta build it more solidly like a regular road bridge.
How
So if
high
someone
is pedestrian height?
hits it with their, I don't recall, I don't know.
But
Village engineers
you
can
said
look
there
at-
wasn't,
But
there wasn't
they
the
can't
land
do
on
it
either
because-
side to
yeah.
do.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't slope up to it.
You'd be like this and then like this. and
Right.
then-
Yeah,
Yeah.
The slope coming off the south side of the bridge already is going down quite a bit, so you can't go higher and
Yeah.
still make the slope, because there's maximum slope recommendations and all that.
And we do need a new bridge, though, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
right.
I would rather that they paint the old bridges that are there. The two railroad bridges are just,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they
yeah, those
definitely-
are
they
like-
definitely need that.
Are they gonna fall
I
down,
think they're
or?
being held up by paint
Right, yeah.
or by rust.
Right. So, I mean, one of the things we have a lot of flexibility to change is signage on the bridge. We have a couple different drafts and different typefaces. For the, we're thinking of mounting a sign on the west side of the bridge, so as people are driving into downtown, they see Lake Bluff and, the bike path logo and the, official route number of the Robert McClory Trail. And looking for feedback on these two signs. So the code doesn't require ABR approval on this, but we're just looking for your feedback on this.
And is that just like painted on? How do they put that? Or is it?
We were thinking of metal, pin set letters.
Yeah, I like what they did when you come into Lake Forest off of, is that Green Bay? Where it's kind of
Like-
built into the concrete.
Yeah.
It's a great look. That Milwaukee, they
Oh, the
form it.
historic ones?
Yeah, where they
Yeah, I can't read
they
that.
formed the letters, out of the
Just
concrete.
embossed
Right.
into the form.
Yeah,
Right. Are
right.
you talking about the historic
Oh,
railroad
it's the
bridges
Sheridan
from the
Road.
20s or 30s or new stuff?
No, it's
new
newer.
stuff.
It's like in the 50s. I
Oh,
mean,
okay, okay.
like the Milwaukee
That's the
one.
sign saying
is
Sheridan Road.
Yeah.
Wherever that, right when you come off the the curve.
Oh, yeah, that, oh,
That's
yeah.
all kind of, it's cool.
Right, yeah, that is the historic
Go
one.
to the right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
You can do that quite easily,
Yeah,
you just make some foam letters and
yeah, I mean,
put them on the form or call it a day.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
They come off.
Are they still gonna have the Sheridan Road sign on there when you're heading
This
east,
green sign right here.
directing you to where to take a right?
Um,
Because that might be in the way then of the other signage.
Oh,
that's on
right,
it.
right, that is a good point. Right,
This cage that's on top of the existing one, it looks like a bird
is.
cage.
You don't wanna jump.
No jumpers.
Right, yeah.
I kind of
That's
like the
good.
vines.
About the
I know.
shrubbery outside.
You ever seen the, I think it's the Madison Avenue Bridge downtown? They redid a long time ago.
Yeah. There's some cool bridge designs out there.
Well, I was thinking of the bridge over Moffett, that when they originally gave us proposals for that.
Looked like this. Well, no,
Yeah, it
was
looked
worse
just
than
about like this, and we,
It did
and we
have-
got them to do something entirely different that's really successful,
Yeah,
except that the paint's peeling on it.
yeah, I know,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
But I guess I've got two thoughts. I'd sure like to see something better than a bird cage.
Well,
And
this
the other
isn't
thing
gonna
is
have
with
an
with the
overhead.
wording on there, the signage,
Yeah,
I think I wouldn't do it.
no
I mean,
signage?
by the time people get here, they know they're in Lake Bluff.
Yeah,
They don't know where Sheridan Road is, though.
right.
Well, and they won't,
That's always
because that's the next one over. So,
Yeah, well, you get those trucks that come through that
Yeah.
made the wrong
they go
turn.
out this,
Right,
then
yeah,
they
that need to
stop.
go to the
Don't know
right.
where to go.
Yeah,
And I think to Neil's point, sometimes you don't want to draw attention to things, and this isn't like a award-winning structure. Like, I wouldn't put my, my name on it. You know what I'm saying? It's not,
Right, yeah.
I don't think it's,
I think the bike
Like-
trail,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, I think that's nice, you're pointing that out, but I don't think you need to say Lake Bluff again.
Yeah, I don't think you do, because we
That's
have the
my-
signs, we have all
Yeah, you have
the
your-
signage coming in, right?
Yeah,
I
I'm not.
think we should have the dog at one end of the bridge.
And that boy, like,
the
he finally
gazebo.
got away
The
from the
gazebo.
dog. I'm worried about that boy still, so it's good that he's getting away. I do agree, I think that's a great point of like, I don't think that's the place for Lake Bluff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not an impressive underdog. I
think we
mean, the
need
whole
an-
thing is bad.
We
right?
need an architect to design the bridge.
I was gonna say, it needs to be a competition. There's some great
go.
bridge
Well, we
designs out
kinda
there.
did the one down on Moffett,
Yeah,
and that won an award.
yeah.
We said, no, we can't do that. And the village coughed up $150,000, something like that, extra.
yeah.
Yeah. They didn't have that inverted thing that we got today. Telling us the recession's coming in 2 days.
They were
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
have
right, yeah.
the barrier curb, that
Yeah.
comes up like this,
Yeah,
that
it's
was,
cool.
that was gonna be the railing.
Is that right?
And if you go down Rockland Road in Libertyville and go across to Des Plaines Bridge, you've got a walkway and the barrier between the walkway and the driving surface
Yeah,
are these plastic things.
yeah.
It's like, really, guys?
Yeah.
I don't get it. They ran out of money, they forgot to do it, what happened?
Yeah.
They should fill them up with stuff, different colors, or put lights on 'em or something.
Yeah, it looks,
It just seems on this one that we're gonna spend a lot of money, and for that much money, we could end up with something that looks a whole bunch better than this.
Oh, on the bridge itself,
Yeah,
rather than
yeah.
the signage?
Let me see the pictures again.
I do have another issue on signage. On, what am I looking at? Sheet number 8, it shows a sign to indicate that when you cross the bridge going south, you're about to go down a hill. I'm not so sure that's necessary.
Yeah, steep incline.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think that's
Okay.
necessary. I think everybody
There's
that's
steep
ever,
inclines all over that bike path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but further down the hill, going toward the south, you can see where there's another bike path coming up the hill that's indicated here in dashed lines.
Right.
that-
I've seen people coming up the hill. That's a location where I think there might be a need for a sign. Because I've seen people coming up that hill, and they look up at the bridge, the part that you can see, and you don't see anybody coming. Then you get to the corner, and you step around the corner, and some of these bicycle guys,
Yeah,
they're
they're
going
flying.
25, 30 miles an hour. Oh, man, I've seen
Yeah.
people almost get killed there.
in this project, are they going to that whole corner here, where Neil's talking about, the
Yeah.
path coming up? It's all overgrown right now, or are they just gonna be ripping all that out? 'Cause that might help with line of sight.
Yeah, I think
Right
they
now, you
will.
can't really see.
They are,
You get here and you
right,
So that might,
back this way, you can see about here, but you can't see here.
right.
Yeah, 'cause right
They're
now you
actually
can't.
gradually reducing buckthorn all
I
along
know,
the
when I'm
path.
right here,
You know, not
I
doing
look
it
up
all at
there, and
once
if I don't
suddenly,
see
but
anybody-
gradually
I'm paying
taking
attention
it
to
out
where I'm
here and
walking around
there.
the corner. I'm not looking for a bike to come out of the,
I'm always looking. I'm always looking. Yeah. You gotta teach your kids early.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the bridge that's there now, only one, pretty much one bike can go at a time, so you're always waiting for someone else to,
Right.
but it,
I've never crossed that bridge. I've been here 10 years.
really?
I've never been on that.
Do it
I've been
daily.
here over 40 years, and I haven't either.
In fact, we have a date.
I'm gonna be doing it right now.
Before they tear it down, I better walk across it just to experience the,
I'm on it
Right.
at least 2 or 3 times a week.
yeah,
Well, you're a healthy guy.
yeah, no.
Of course, partly because I live on one side, my daughter lives on the other.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so it sounds like the consensus is to do the bike path symbol and/or the bike path name, but not like Bluff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would they,
100%.
that'd leave room for your Sheridan Road sign.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we'll have to look, I'll have to ask the village engineer about that, what her plan is for the
Should
Sheridan Road sign.
should I know who Robert McClory is?
He was,
A state senator
right?
who supported creating the
No.
Green Bay Trail
Okay.
originally in the
Good.
Long
70s.
time. He lived
Yeah,
3 doors down from me.
Oh, is that right? Well, that's excellent.
what does the number 23 mean on there?
that's the bike route number
Yeah.
for that trail.
I would almost leave that off, because I don't think anybody knows that. Even,
Well,
you know,
it's
other
something
signs that say
that's why I
Robert
put it
McClory
on.
Trail
That's
don't
like
have a
I-
23
Go
on
up
it.
to
Right,
Russell
yeah.
Road.
Just leave that on.
Russell Road is basically on the state line, and it goes across there, and it's on.
Yeah.
Is it really on
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Yeah,
Robert
it's a whole
McClory
system,
bike
it's
path.
a
Yeah,
whole system
people,
like.
yeah, people live on
But
this.
if you go up to the north end of the parking lot, there's a sign that says Robert McClory Bike Trail. It doesn't have a 23 on it.
Okay, yeah.
Forgot.
Well, it should.
Get my marker out. Where's the detail on
Need more
this stupid
signs.
rail?
Yeah, the railing, if you
That's-
look
that's a
on
good point.
sheet 21, you weren't studying these details earlier? Yeah, there's definitely,
So I think this is showing a composite plastic, you know, like a truck deck board type of railing. I know the county does like the Ipe wood railings on a lot of their pedestrian bridges.
Well, could we do that?
We could, yeah, you think that would be better?
I don't know, what do you think?
it's very urban solution,
What's that?
the railing,
Yeah, the guardrail fence thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you need a handrail?
For when your bike hits it.
Yeah, no, is that like a guardrail so you don't
Yeah.
ride your bike?
Yeah, I'm not sure why you need a handrail on
It's
that.
really not
I
a
mean, we're-
handrail, it's a square tube
Yeah.
that if you do hit it, you got a problem.
Well, there's
Well, it's
two of
gonna be
them.
so wide, there's no
Those
way
tubes
you're
are
gonna-
somewhere else.
Well, there's one at the
well,
bottom, it's like 9 inches off the pavement.
Oh, I see it, that's what it is, it's not a handrail,
Yeah, it's more of, it
It's
says
for you.
handrail, but it's more of, it has to be like a bumper.
it's a bumper.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little concrete parapet wall, so it's not down that low. So there's a 2'7" concrete parapet wall off the floor of the
Right.
bridge.
Oh, I see, I'm totally wrong.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, so it's, 3
Oh,
foot
so
9 to
that,
the top of the handrail.
so the top of this is,
6
it's,
feet.
you know, that's totally misleading, the way that they showed that.
Right,
that
so the
elevation.
floor of this is inside, is down here somewhere.
It's the bottom heavy line, top of the
Yeah,
deck.
yeah, I mean, right,
So
so
that
we're, because
is-
that's at 3 feet, this is 2.
So this thing is at almost 9 feet tall.
Yeah, I think something's wrong with this elevation, not
It
to,
could be, because it was just done by someone in our office.
oh, sorry,
Engineer.
but, because really, what they're saying is, this is 2'7", right, the Robert McCloy.
That's 6 feet.
No, I think
7, 8,
here
so
to
8
here
foot
is 2'7", and then
Oh,
the
and then
beam
the
is-
beam is here. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right,
Yep, okay, so I'm reading it, okay. It's really high.
So who drew this? Jeff?
No, actually Glenn
Yeah.
did this.
No, I
this
get it.
elevation.
They're right, I'm wrong. I mean, my sense of everything is off.
Okay. It's actually not a perfectly proportioned elevation.
Well, the handrail's on the outside, it's not, the other
The
part
handrail's
is,
on the inside, not the outside.
which is
yeah,
fine.
Right.
I mean, I'm
yeah,
not gonna
right,
nitpick that.
Right.
But
We
it's
did
not a
notice that.
handrail, is it a,
No, it is a handrail now, because that handrail is like 3 feet off the deck of the path.
Right, it's up at handrail height, but,
it's square.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a handrail.
That's not a handrail, is it?
Yeah,
It sticks out? Oh,
yep,
yeah, it does.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a handrail detail.
Well, I'm a little confused on the handrail detail in the lower right, actually, because I thought they told us they're using like a, a composite, artificial wood.
No, this is
board,
all
and this is a-
HSS. This is
Yeah,
all
this
the
is all a
standard
steel,
sewer stock.
a steel tube here, so
Yeah.
that's not,
Yeah, it's a
not what I
totally,
thought they were doing.
yeah, all
there.
steel rail elements, galvanized.
So does this thing by code have to be almost 10 feet tall, 9 feet tall? It's
Well,
8'7".
they're doing it to some standard, an IDOT standard, I guess.
One of the concerns is, where on some of these bridges where kids have thrown
Yeah,
heavy things over and
Yeah.
and
Right.
killed
Sure,
people
of
hitting the
course.
windshield.
yeah,
Right,
So I assume that they make those pretty high, so it's really tough to get something over there.
right.
yeah.
That's
There's
right.
probably,
That's the reason
Camera
for it.
instead.
Right,
raise your kids better.
That's true.
right.
All those
There's a
things.
camera up there. Really? Camera on a pole, hey.
But you couldn't write words with Dixie cups in the, you seen that?
That's right.
I love the Dixie cup writing.
Birthday.
They put Dixie cups in the mesh to write
Yeah.
like
Oh,
Make a
yeah.
mess.
words
Make a
or,
sign
oh,
out of
it.
joy.
Right,
There's
right.
someone been doing it on the Dan Ryan or whatever, one of those forever. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
they've been very persistent.
And now I realize where the composite timber comes in. It's on page 26. It's at each end of the bridge, or at one end of the bridge anyway. There's, the composite timber,
I don't have it
which,
on-
I'm sorry, sheet number 4, which is the second sheet on this
Oh,
set.
okay, great, thanks.
So that's actually,
Oh,
the, sort of the guardrail
I see.
at the end of the bridge where you have that steep slope down after the north
Yeah.
and south ends of the bridge.
Yeah.
That has a composite timber part there. So the bridge itself is just the metal railing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're only supposed to be looking at the signage.
Well,
Can't help ourselves.
yeah. I mean, if you have comments on the rest, go
Yeah.
ahead and let me know,
No,
but
I know.
we're limited in.
Yeah,
our
no, you got your
flexibility,
whole
so
things, yeah,
it's-
no, it is what it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
What color, is it gonna be painted, or,
The
Just out of
metal
curiosity?
is, no, the metal is just gonna be galvanized.
it's just galvanized?
unpainted.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So the galvanized backing on the small handrail that's 42 inches is just that, 4x4 grid. Whereas the backing on the 10-foot high guy
Yeah, it's a 2-inch mesh,
is chain link fence,
yeah.
which is always handsome.
It is, yeah.
How,
Chain link fence is what's there now, isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
a box, like,
yeah,
Just old and rusty.
yeah.
how old is that bridge?
It's gotta be from the 70s when the Robert McCloy Trail was built,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And age
Early
well.
70s,
Yeah.
yeah.
It used to also be that when you go just north of the bridge, there's a pathway that goes through the curbs. You know, the cars are right there, and there's a curb. That little pathway through used to also be only about 3 or 4 feet wide. When they redid the parking lot,
Yeah.
they made that a lot wider.
Yeah. All sidewalks were like, what, 4 feet?
Yeah.
5 feet?
4 feet, 5 feet.
I think 5 feet's the Lake Bluff standard, isn't it?
Yeah, for public
So
sidewalks.
just looking at the one that's there now, I'm wondering if we couldn't eliminate the middle row here of steel. I mean, if this is an atomic blast, this is not where I'm going anyway.
Oh, right, this horizontal part of steel here, eliminate that,
This guy,
you're saying? Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
'cause that just is, it's big, it's fat. You know, the other one doesn't have that. It's still sitting on top of a concrete curb
Right.
with
And-
holes in it instead of a solid.
And it's like right at eye level for a certain, I mean, it's kind of an odd,
Yeah.
like if you're on there, it's kind of like, right,
Right.
maybe not for me, but for average height people.
Okay, I'll look into that, see if we can do it.
And then we've given them a nice step to stand on with that handrail to flip stuff over.
Yeah, it's interesting that they need a handrail. What is the rationale for a handrail?
I don't know. That is a good question, because,
I don't know.
the arched pedestrian bridges need it because they're not flat.
Yeah,
You're
you
going
need
up
to
and down
pull
a slope,
yourself.
it's like a ramp.
Yeah.
But with the perfectly flat one, I'm not
Yeah.
sure why they need it. Maybe we should look into that, see if we
Seems
can
like that's
eliminate
a
it.
useless.
So this is based on what? Who drew this? Our guys? or-
No, it's a civil engineer that we hired as a consultant, designed
Oh,
it
we
to
hired
meet.
him.
Yeah, we hired him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, last time we hired a civil engineer, they fired him and got another guy. We said, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Were you here when that was done?
Which
Which
one?
one? What?
The Moffett Bridge.
Oh, I was here.
You were here.
No, I wasn't there. No,
Yeah.
I've
that
never
was-
been involved in,
George Russell was
Cool
the
stuff.
village engineer, and he called me, and he said, I'm sending you some plans that they want to do on Moffett. And I told him Bob's not gonna like this. And that was right when I retired, so
that's,
whatever it was that I retired, 19-something, 2000. Anyway, so when they started building it, and I was sitting at home, and George would be down there, he lived basically across the street from it, and he'd say, can you come down, we can't get this, this stone business to line up,
Yeah.
Come down and move this stuff around a little bit. So I'd walk down there, and, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we, it's like being back in the field.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out real well.
It did. I never, our criteria was, you need to be able to see the ravine.
Yeah, that's
And-
great.
And then I came up with this silly notion of the little curly cues at the end that people would like to sit there and
Mhm.
watch the ravine. Well, I've never seen anybody there except me. But,
Nothing wrong with designing for yourself when you can.
okay, have you got, what are you gonna do here?
Yes, well, I think that's great feedback. I mean, we'll plan to eliminate Lake Bluff and just have Robert McClory Trail and the symbol there, and we'll see if we can eliminate the
Little rail?
handrail and that steel horizontal too.
Well, that's a
Yep.
good night's work then.
Yep,
Yeah.
right, it is. That's
Nice and
good
clean.
feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we're done.
yep, we are
We don't need
done.
to vote on that. Do we?
No, we can just declare it
Now, do I
adjourned
need
at
to-
8:35.
Are we, the Jawa? We're keeping these, right? We can just use,
Yeah, that's
Are you
fine.
sending out a
I'll-
new
I'll-
packet?
I'll send it out again, just in case.
Okay.
if you
Why?
know.
Just kill more trees.
We'll kill
Yeah.
it.
So, we really do have an issue with,
You saved that.
not being able to replace Carroll.
Oh, really? I
Um,
thought, did Kathy have someone in mind, or?
Yeah, and obviously that didn't work
Oh.
because he's not here.
Right, yeah, okay,
And I'm assuming that she talked to him.
okay.
How many other registered either architects or landscape people
Yeah,
are in
yeah.
Lake Bluff?
Yeah.
Are there a lot? No, it doesn't seem like.
I think there's almost none that I know of. I don't know, is there any organization that we can search on to find that out, Tim? An organization of landscape architects that we could double check, but I don't know of hardly any.
I don't know of any
Yeah,
that live here.
right.
I don't know.
No, there might be a few, but there's,
Because if we lose one more, that's it, right? That's the board?
Closing up shop.
Close up shop, 4-member board? That seems very, very sad.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we're at 6, so one more would only bring us to 5. But
Are we at 6? Oh, because that,
it's late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I forget about that.
well, if everybody showed up, we'd have 6.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's good.
right.
That's a good board.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
we're adjourned.
excellent.
Yep.
Thanks, Michael, all your hard work.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
For your recycling.
Yep,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yep.